There's no American politician who so perfectly captures the lack of principles in this MAGA era than Lindsey Graham from South Carolina. Lindsey Graham at first was most famous for being the sidekick of John McCain. I personally logged thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of miles on the road with Lindsey Graham, flying to every corner of this country on a presidential campaign. He wasn't a particularly serious guy, but he was fun, and he made everybody laugh. He's a genuinely funny guy. Would often look at him and joke with people around, can you believe that he's a United States senator? But alas, he was, but perfectly harmless. And his instincts seemed to be right, committed to small L liberal values, to pluralism, to democracy. And all across the world, he would sit at John McCain's elbows, across from dictators, across from people who hated freedom, and next to the world's dissidents. And you would have imagined that he picked something up. He actually ran for president in 2016. He ran for president as somebody opposing Donald Trump. He very famously said during that campaign, not only would the Republican Party be destroyed if it nominated Donald Trump, but that it would deserve it. When Donald Trump was unexpectedly elected president, Lindsey Graham discarded every principle that he had previously advocated, every single one of them. He wanted attention. He wanted to play golf. He needed another large fish under which to protect himself, to bask. A lot of reporters at the time would ask me, what's wrong with Lindsey Graham? What happened to him? Why is he doing this? And I told them it's who he is, that they misunderstood. It's not a lack of principle. It's entirely consistent with his character. What he is a pilot fish. He swam under John McCain, who was a noble shark in the estimation of the American media. And so Lindsey Graham was noble. But either way, he made his living feeding on the detritus of the apex predator, John McCain. When John McCain left, the pilot fish needed a new host. And now he swam under a sleazy shark, Donald Trump, feeding on its polluted detritus. Same Lindsey Graham. When the Saudi Arabians chopped up a Washington Post columnist named Jamal Khashoggi, Lindsey Graham predictably went out and made a series of pronouncements. He would never, ever dare to shake hands with the Saudi tyrant Mohammed bin Salman again. But like in all things, Lindsey Graham has walked away from that. And there he was, shaking hands, kissing ass, doing what he does best with the Saudi dictator. Now, here's the question, and here's where it connects. What exactly is it that Jared Kushner got for the $2 billion that Saudi Arabia invested into his investment fund, despite Jared Kushner never running an investment fund before? In fact, the investment was made over the professional objections of the Saudi Arabian money managers. It was personally directed by the king. This isn't a matter of pay for play. This is the greatest act of corruption in American history. And it's an espionage story. I wonder what Mohammed bin Salman got for his $2 billion to Jared Kushner, who weeks before he took the money was in the West Wing of the White House, looking at the president's daily brief, having access to the most highly classified information in the inventory of the United States government. Something, by the way, he was completely fascinated with. There was nobody in the Trump administration, apparently, who asked for more access to classified material than Jared Kushner. And that's curious, because when he was appointed to his high office by his father, he was rejected for security clearances by the U.S. government, being deemed untrustworthy. It required a presidential waiver. A lot of people have access to classified information who shouldn't. Look at the 21-year-old Army National Guardsman, for example. But that's not the point here. Has Lindsey Graham changed his position? because he's getting something from Trump? We don't know. Just like we don't know what Harlan Crow gets from Clarence Thomas. The corruption is incredible. And at the beating heart of the corruption in Washington, D.C., or a lot of it anyway, is Saudi Arabia. The Saudi Arabian government, the despotic regime. 15 of the 19 hijackers came from Saudi Arabia, and no doubt the government of Saudi Arabia at some level was complicit in those attacks. And even to this day, the 9/11 families are denied the declassified information that would tell the truth to them. They deserve the declassified information. Perhaps Lindsey Graham should fight for that. But instead, Lindsey Graham has turned tables again. Lindsey Graham now stands on the side of the dictator. Lindsey Graham is just one more American whore on his knees for the Saudi tyrant, because the Saudis have a lot of money. Here's the simple fact. Washington, D.C. is awash in Saudi Arabian money and influence. They run influence operations all over the United States without commentary, without coverage, and without report. They've infiltrated Hollywood. They've infiltrated the American media. They've infiltrated America's policymaking apparatus too deeply and for far too long. An example of that is Lindsey Graham's turnaround. Despicable as always. But this is what happens when principleless men and women are elected to high offices and positions. What do you think that the tyrant thinks when Lindsey Graham comes walking through the door? Do you think they evaluate him as a pillar of strength, someone to be reckoned with, a serious person? Or do they evaluate Lindsey Graham for what he is? A buffoon, a joker, clown, an unserious person. Somebody who only a decrepit and decaying society would put into a position of responsibility. Our fools in Washington project weakness that is not consistent with the moral fiber and character of the American people. The danger to this is perhaps it will lead adversaries to underestimate the American character. When that's happened in the past, the results have always been tragic. I worry that it could be happening again. The dictators look at this country and they see its politics, and they see a culture that they believe to be downrange from its politics. That's not the case. Politics is downrange in our culture. And our culture, though broken in many ways, has many enduring strengths. It's just that one of them isn't Lindsey Graham, America's pilot fish, a U.S. senator who feeds on flotsam and the detritus of bigger, more important fish in the sea. Poor Lindsey.